In the final, frigid days of December 1980, a series of truly bizarre events began to unfold within the dense, dark woods of Rendlesham Forest, Suffolk. This sequence of events would permanently etch a strange and compelling story into the annals of modern ufology. The incident is frequently debated with intense fervor by believers and skeptics alike, even decades after it occurred. It has been famously dubbed Britain's Roswell, a title that hints at its profound significance in UFO lore. The core of the incident involved multiple sightings of unidentified lights and a purported craft by highly trained United States Air Force personnel. These personnel were stationed at the strategically important twin bases of RAF Woodbridge and RAF Bentwaters. What transpired over the course of 2 separate nights has been meticulously dissected by researchers for years. Compelling witness testimony and official documentation have fueled persistent theories of an extraterrestrial visitation. However, equally persistent skeptical explanations offer far more prosaic and down-to-earth solutions to the mystery. The strange and unsettling saga began in the cold, pre-dawn hours of December 26, 1980. A security patrol situated near the east gate of RAF Woodbridge witnessed a stunning cascade of lights descending into the adjacent forest. Airmen initially believed that a civilian or perhaps a military aircraft had tragically crashed in the woods. 3 patrolmen, Sergeant Jim Peniston, Airman First Class John Burroughs, and Airman Ed Cabansag, ventured into the woods to investigate. What they reported finding was far from any conventional aircraft they had ever seen or heard of. According to their initial statements, they observed a strange glowing object that appeared to be metallic in nature. This mysterious object was adorned with a dazzling array of brightly colored lights. As the airmen drew nearer, the object began to maneuver silently and intelligently through the dense trees. The object's presence caused a frantic commotion among the animals on a nearby farm before it suddenly vanished. Sergeant Peniston would later provide a much more detailed and sensational account of the close encounter. He claimed that he came within just a few feet of a triangular-shaped craft of unknown origin. The craft was approximately 9 feet long and 6 feet high, resting silently on 3 fixed legs. He described its outer surface as a smooth, opaque black glass, unlike any material he had ever encountered. The craft featured a single, pulsing red light on its top and a bank of brilliant blue lights underneath. In a dramatic addition to his testimony years later, Peniston asserted that he physically touched the craft's surface. He reported that the craft felt warm to the touch, despite the freezing cold of the December night. Peniston also observed a series of strange symbols on the craft's hull, resembling ancient hieroglyphics. He even claimed to have received a telepathic download of binary code directly into his mind. He later transcribed this complex binary code into a personal notebook for safekeeping. This mysterious code, when it was eventually deciphered, was said to contain a cryptic message for humanity. The message included coordinates for significant ancient sites located all around the globe. It also referenced the mythical and long-lost island of High Brazil. The following morning, official investigators returned to the small clearing in the forest. They discovered 3 distinct impressions left in the hard, frozen ground. These impressions were arranged in a precise triangular pattern, matching the alleged landing gear. The investigators also noted several broken branches on the surrounding pine trees. Some of the men described what appeared to be burn marks on the trees near the landing site. Local police were summoned to the scene to conduct their own independent assessment. The police report, however, noted that the indentations could have simply been made by animals. 2 nights later, on the evening of December 28th, the strange phenomenon inexplicably returned to the forest. This time, the deputy base commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Holt decided to lead a patrol himself. He was informed by his men with a sense of urgency that the UFO is back. Armed with a micro-cassette recorder, Holt meticulously documented the bizarre events of that evening. This recording would later become famously known as the Holt tape, a key piece of evidence. On the crackling audio recording, Holt and his men can be heard describing a pulsing, sun-like red light. This red light moved silently and erratically through the trees, defying any logical explanation. At one point, the object appeared to drip a substance that looked like molten metal. It then suddenly broke apart into 5 separate white objects before completely disappearing from sight. Later that same night, Holt and his bewildered team witnessed several star-like objects in the night sky. One of these objects was to the south, while 2 others were observed to the north. These objects, according to Colonel Holt's report, moved with sharp, impossible angular motions. They also emitted brilliant red, green, and blue lights in a non-random pattern. The object to the south remained visible for an incredible 2 to 3 hours. It periodically beamed a narrow stream of light down towards the ground below. At one point, this beam of light seemed to be directed near the base's sensitive weapons storage area. Holt also reported taking radiation readings at the initial landing site from the first night. These readings showed levels that were significantly higher than the normal background radiation. In January of 1981, Colonel Holt officially documented these strange events in a memorandum. The memo was addressed to the British Ministry of Defence and was titled Unexplained Lights. This crucial document was eventually released to the public in 1983 under the Freedom of Information Act. Its release lent a powerful air of officialdom to the incident, making it difficult to dismiss. The Holt memo quickly became a cornerstone of the Rendlesham UFO narrative. However, for every piece of evidence pointing towards an extraterrestrial encounter, a counter-explanation exists. The most prominent skeptical theory posits that the lights were a misinterpretation of the Orfordness Lighthouse. This lighthouse is located several miles away on the coast, but is visible from the forest. The lighthouse's powerful beam flashed at a consistent rate of every 5 seconds. Some researchers claim this frequency perfectly matches the witness descriptions of the pulsing lights. Indeed, some of the initial witness statements from the first night mention a beacon light. The witnesses stated they eventually identified this beacon as a lighthouse. Another contributing factor could have been a bright meteor seen over southern England at the time. This meteor may have been mistaken for a descending craft by the initial observers. The physical evidence found at the site has also been seriously called into question. Forestry workers suggested the triangular indentations were simply rabbit diggings, common in the area. They also claimed the burn marks on the trees were just axe marks left by foresters. The entire story is further complicated by sensational claims of an elaborate hoax. One former USAF security policeman, Kevin Conde, came forward years after the incident. He claimed to have perpetrated a prank on the knights in question using his patrol car. He said he had modified the lights of his vehicle to create the strange effects. However, the timeline and the specifics of his claim have been widely disputed by investigators. A more elaborate hoax theory involves a revenge plot by the British Special Air Service, or SAS. According to this story, the SAS were captured and mistreated by the USAF during a security exercise. In retaliation, this theory suggests the SASAs staged the entire UFO incident as a psychological operation. Might have used a combination of flares, balloons, and remote-controlled kites to fool the Americans. The British government's official stance has always been that the event posed no threat to national security. Therefore, they claim, it was never investigated in any significant depth. The release of the Ministry of Defense's files on the incident in 2001 was highly anticipated. However, the files revealed mostly mundane internal correspondence and responses to public inquiries. There was no evidence of any major, high-level investigation, which surprised many. This lack of information led some to cry foul and allege a massive government cover-up. Proponents of the cover-up theory suggest the proximity of the sightings to the nuclear weapons storage area is key. They believe the secrecy is directly related to the base's nuclear role during the Cold War. Colonel Halt himself has become a vocal proponent of the extraterrestrial explanation over the years. He has publicly accused both the US and UK governments of a coordinated and deliberate cover-up. The Rendlesham Forest incident remains a deeply polarizing and multifaceted enigma to this day. The accounts of trained military observers are difficult for many to simply dismiss as fantasy. The official memorandum from a high-ranking officer adds significant weight to the claims. The physical traces left in the forest are held up by believers as compelling evidence. Together, these elements form what some consider the most compelling evidence of a genuine UFO encounter. Conversely, the plausible explanations of the lighthouse provide a strong rational argument. The perfectly timed meteor adds another layer of potential misidentification to the events of the first night. The possibility of a clever prank or a military hoax cannot be entirely ruled out. Furthermore, the evolving and sometimes contradictory witness testimonies have muddied the waters over time. These skeptical points provide a strong case for a completely terrestrial and mundane explanation. With no definitive, smoking gun proof to sway the argument conclusively, the debate rages on. The secret files of the Rendlesham Incident effectively remain open, a tantalizing puzzle for future generations. It stands as a captivating puzzle of human perception, individual belief, and enduring, unsolved mystery. The cold Suffolk soil still holds the memory of those strange December nights. Airman Burroughs reported feeling a sense of static electricity in the air as they approached. The light from the object was so bright it illuminated the entire forest clearing. Aniston's notebook, containing the binary code, became an artifact of the incident. The radiation levels Halt recorded were reportedly 10 times the normal background level. Some theories suggest the object was a top-secret experimental US aircraft, not an alien one. This Black Project theory would explain the government's immediate and lasting secrecy. The incident occurred during a period of heightened Cold War tension, adding to the paranoia. The airmen involved were experienced observers, trained to identify aircraft. Their inability to identify the object is one of the most compelling aspects of the case. The farm animals' panic reaction suggested the presence of something highly unusual. Skeptics point out that memory is fallible, and stories can become embellished over time. The differences in the accounts of Peniston and Burroughs have been a source of debate. Halt's calm, professional narration on the tape contrasts sharply with the chaos he describes. The object's alleged ability to absorb and bend light has been discussed by theorists. The beam of light scanning the weapons storage area raised serious security concerns at the time. No radar data has ever been released that corroborates the visual sightings. This lack of radar confirmation is a key point for the skeptical argument. The forest itself has become a pilgrimage site for UFO enthusiasts. A trail has been established that leads visitors to the key locations from the incident. The story has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and television shows. Each new piece of media adds its own spin to the legend, further cementing its place in folklore. The witnesses have faced both ridicule and praise for sticking to their stories. Some have suffered from health problems they attribute to the close encounter. The mystery of the hieroglyphs has never been satisfactorily explained. Were they a message, a warning, or simply a decorative element of the craft? The High Brazil connection and the binary code points to ancient Irish mythology. This adds a layer of high strangeness that defies easy explanation. The silence of the object was one of its most unnerving characteristics. It moved with a grace and silence that no known 1980s technology could achieve. The dripping molten metal described by Hoax suggests extreme temperatures. Yet there was no major fire or damage to the surrounding forest. This contradiction is one of the many paradoxes of the Rendlesham case. The angular movements of the sky objects seemed to defy the laws of physics. They were not consistent with satellites, aircraft, or natural celestial bodies. The duration of the sightings, especially on the second night, is hard to explain away. A lighthouse beam would not appear to be a solid object for 3 hours. The incident forced a re-evaluation of what constitutes credible evidence for UFOs. Could multiple, trained military observers all be mistaken in the same way? The psychological impact on the primary witnesses was profound and life-altering. Their insistence on the reality of their experience has never wavered over the decades. Ultimately, Rendlesham is a story about the limits of our understanding. It challenges our perception of reality and the possibility of life beyond our own world. The proof of UFOs, or an elaborate hoax, its power as a modern myth, is undeniable. The forest guards its secrets, leaving the world to wonder about what truly happened in December 1980.